1981 Hot Wheels. These are all of the cars released in that year by Mattel. All of these cars were basically single pack vehicles, with the exception of a couple that were released in 3-packs or store promotionals. And I've got an entire price guide as well for these cars. Most of them are worth between $5 and $10. Several of them are differently priced, so I will tell you what those prices are as we go through each of these vehicles. And to start off, I'll just go through each and every one of their names, followed by a description on the vehicles, of their details, and of their pricing. 31 Doozy, 37 Bugatti, A-OK, Auburn 852, Cannonade, Chevy Citation, Old Number 5, Murata Stalker, Mini Trek, Bronco 4x4, Dixie Challenger, Street Rodder, Turbo Mustang, Turismo, 40s Woody, that's a high raker, Peterbilt Tank Truck, Silver Surfer, Iron Man, a rare variation as well, from the Scorchers, 928 Turbo, P911, Captain America, Corvette Stingray, Bronco 4x4, Space Van, Racing Team, and Circus Cats. The 31 Doozy is a casting that's been around since 1977, but for the first time now, a new color in green with green fenders, still featuring the removable beige roof piece and 2 blue windows underneath, which just clips in, often lost on Played With models. I have a couple variations here to show you. First we've got the green with yellow tampo, and then the green one with a green tinge tampo on the side of it. It's actually quite different. The really rare one here is the orange bodied version with the green fenders, which is a transitionary piece from all those years of making the orange ones. This one was released in 1978 and probably right up until about 1980. And for 81, the new green body piece, they must have had some leftover green fenders and some leftover orange bodies, or new green fenders I should say. So that's, I think, how this one came to be. It's quite rare to find. Cost me $125 about 5 years ago. It's important to check the base to make sure that the rivers are authentic if you are buying one of these, as it would be a fairly easy piece to forge just by switching parts. The other two variations to look at, the yellow one is the yellow tampo version is the common one, features a Hong Kong base, and the green tampo version, which I have here, has a Malaysia base. So since all the cars that I have from 1981 have a Hong Kong base, I may believe that this one is actually from 1982, but I thought I'd show it in this video anyways, since I have all these different Duesenbergs to look at and show you. The yellow one is worth, the yellow tampo version is worth about $5 or $10. The green tampo version is worth about the same, although it's very hard to find if you're looking for it, as most people don't know about this variation nowadays. The 37 Bugatti is a brand new model for this year, and a very nice heavy all-metal piece, metal base, big black metal fenders on it even, they are not plastic, and features the large Blackwall wheels. This vehicle will be released in some very similar paint jobs and wheel variations over the next few years. This one's worth, again, about $5 or $10, as it was fairly common, and I think it's quite a nice rendition of this 1937 Bugatti. I really like the touch with the spare dual tires on the back. The A-OK was first released in 1978 with a green paint job and green fenders, early times tampo. It still features the early time tampo now, and same ghost flames, however obviously different color. Metallic red with a burgundy type fender, metal base. This one is a nice little piece to find, especially if you can get it with Real Riders, which will be released in a couple years from now, 1982 or 83 I believe. Very rare variation to find, but this one's still a nice piece, usually worth around $15 in mint condition. The Auburn 852, another very nicely designed casting by Hot Wheels. This one was first released in 1979 with a red paint job, the same dark brown fenders that we see on this newer version with the yellow paint. Still featuring a very detailed chrome wrapped clear plastic window, all metal construction other than those plastic fenders. This is a fairly common car and worth around $5. However, not so common is this light brown interior. Looks like I need to do a little dusting in there. Same otherwise, other than the color of the fenders, which is also the same piece as the interior. This one is usually worth around $20 to $25 if you can find it. The Cannonade is a brand new casting for this year. Features an opening canopy for the front and driver, the shiny chrome interior, and a single joystick as the control instead of a steering wheel. Big chrome engine and exhaust pipes out the back. A plastic base, fairly simple, although still shows some nice exhaust features off the bottom as well, strangely. So 4 exhaust pipes on this car. Worth around $10 in this condition, and this will be the first of many variations to come out over the next few years. Chevy Citation X11, another new casting for the year. Lots of new castings for 81. 2 different paint variations could be found for this car. The very common one is the white with burgundy stripe, and detailed on the side XT. Red interior which extends to the tail lights, which I think is a very nice touch, especially when the car is fitted with the red interior. Very robust casting. Heavy little piece, all metal of course. This one here was featured in 3-pack exclusives only. The other 2 cars would have been common cars, quite often featured with the new Gold Hot One vehicles, which I'll be showing you in a moment. I think it could be found with these cars as kind of a promotional thing to get the Gold Hot Ones out there. But this one here features a tan interior, which strangely makes the taillights tan. Otherwise, a cool little casting. The yellow and white stripe tampo on the side. This one here is worth around $15 to $20 in mint condition, whereas this car here commonly found for around $5 or $10. The Dixie Challenger, based on a Dodge Challenger, heavily modified, is a new casting again for this year. Features quite nice tampo work on the roof and hood of the vehicle, a chrome plastic base. This one here features the stars on the top roof flag, whereas the 1982 version will feature this tampo, quite a bit different. That's the indicator of if you have the 1981 version, as this was the only year with that roof tampo. This one was released for a couple years after 1982 and is the more common of the 2. The Dixie Challenger with the roof tampo is worth usually around $20 to $25 if found mint loose. This one is pretty close to it, other than having some tarnishing on the plastic base. Lots of new castings, of course, in this year, and here is another one, the Ford Bronco 4x4. These vehicles are the same other than a window tint variation, which I believe would have been found in the 1981 through 1982 years. It's hard to tell because of the Hong Kong base being the same on all of these vehicles for a long time before Malaysia stamps started to appear. Nice nostalgic paint job on the side, I really like it. A very interesting paint gradient of reds, yellows, and oranges. The back plastic piece is not intended to be removable, but is often found missing on heavily played with models, as is the delicate chrome motorcycle attached, which forms a portion of the interior. This is a very heavy piece, quite collected, and very nicely scaled compared to other Hot Wheels. Unlike some of the trucks, which are often scaled smaller, the Bronco 4x4 has a very large stance and large body on it. These, for all those reasons, are worth more than the typical $5 to $10, and usually will cost you anywhere between $15 to $30 depending on condition. Like many of the other models, the Mini Trek is a new one for 1981. This is another heavy piece, all metal, a brown, almost metallic metal flake painted base, the single rivet and a clip holding the bumper to the body, red interior and clear windows. There's lots of seating and a table to be seen through those back windows and roof windows. A very common piece. based on a Datsun pickup truck, or perhaps a Toyota. I think it's a Datsun. Doesn't actually say, but it looks something like that. These are, like I said, common, so usually around $5 or $10 to find it in good condition. Another terrific new model for 81 is the Murata Stalker, Dodge Murata, based on a stock car of the same vehicle. This was an interesting car back in the 80s, and it makes an interesting Hot Wheel as well, with superb tampo work on the front and sides of it. The metal grille forming a portion of the attachment point between the body and the base. Big metal taillights extending up into the bodywork. And a beige roll cage in there as well. A great car on the racetracks of the time. It was often featured in track sets along with the Turbo Mustang. This car, because of its popularity, is worth probably around $10 or $15 in mint condition. And there are lots of variations to look out for as we go through the next couple of years. I will show you, including versions with gold Hot One wheels on it and different paint variations with the same tampo work. Old number 5, as it's called. This is a big old fire truck. Looks like something from the 1920s or possibly earlier, maybe slightly later. A big heavy piece. Mostly metal construction other than the plastic ladders, interior, and gold chrome bits on it. It's got a big huge metal water pump cast right into a separate bumper piece, which is clipped and riveted to the actual body of the vehicle. Very sturdy design. Even the most heavily played with versions are usually intact with very little damage other than twisted plastic ladders. Got two variations to look at here. One is a lot rarer than the other, but just looking at them quickly you wouldn't notice this variation. The common version up top has louvers on the engine cowling, which you can see behind the gold chrome. I'm not sure what that is, maybe a fire extinguisher or something, but this rare version here is just a smooth casting, no louvers at all. And the louvered version is worth about $10. This one is worth around $25 in mint loose condition. The Street Rodder, one of the smallest Hot Wheel castings, isn't a new one though. Last seen with a black paint job in 1978, first seen in 1977 with red line wheels. The white version is a new paint job, otherwise all the same as the previous releases, including the flames. Chrome plastic engine piece with tailpipes and a fragile little plastic window and steering column. Not to mention the exposed wheels and axles make this car quite hard to find in decent condition, especially if it's been played with or stored improperly, as all these parts can be broken or bent. In good condition it's worth around $15. A new favorite amongst kids, collectors, and Mattel was the Turbo Mustang casting. This car was first released in 1980, so just 1 year prior to the orange one we're looking at currently. However, for this 1981 model, substantial tampo changes, a completely new tampo in fact, other than the back piece here behind the driver window. This is an interesting car because it's all metal, but it has a clear plastic window which extends through to the grillwork and a trim piece all the way around, as well as the taillights on it. A robust little vehicle, still quite heavy. The only similarities to this one here are the window piece and red interior. But this orange version is a lot more uncommon than the yellow one we're looking at from 1980, and in mint condition can run as high as $25 to $30 at times. Yet another new casting for 81 is the Turismo. This car features tampos virtually all the way around the body and came with either tan or black interior, blue tint windows. It's loosely based on a DeLorean, DMC DeLorean, and has these interesting signal lights that are just big arrows over top of a gridwork of taillights. Goodyear tampos, SDP, Bell, all sorts of good actual sponsorships on the side, but a very blunt and kind of bland front end. The interior forms the front bumper and rear bumper, as well as rocker panels on the bottom. This was something that we saw a lot of in the early 1980s with Hot Wheels construction in their new castings. The black interior version is much harder to find than the beige one with this red body, as this was almost a transitionary piece into the next year's models, which were yellow painted versions and often featured the black interior or a burgundy interior. so the tan was only seen on the red painted models from 1981, but it is the common version, worth usually around $5 or $10. This black one, around $15. The 40s Woody has been around since 1979, and in 81 features almost no change at all versus the previous 2 years that were released. It still features the high raker rear axle, which is adjustable to 3 different levels, and the chrome engine, orange front painted body, and plastic wood grain look. This one is from 1979 and probably not perceptible on the camera. There's a slight difference in the finish and color of the orange paint, which is the only separation between the two. This one features a matted, more rich orange, whereas this one has a glossier, slightly lighter orange paint. It is worth around $10. In 1980, Hot Wheels gave us this awesome Peterbilt casting of a big heavy-duty truck tandem axle. Here was the 1980 cement version of that vehicle, and also the same time was this track set exclusive, the Hammer Down, basically the same vehicle with a sticker on the back instead of a plastic piece. But for 1981 we get an ultra heavy casting which would remain quite popular right up to current day, although now it features a plastic tank if you find it in the stores. This first release, however, has a solid metal cast tank on the back, securely riveted through the body, which is then riveted to the chassis. It's a heavy piece, and it has these interesting extending fuel nozzles or hoses on both sides. And just a really nice casting. Great one for the lineup. This truck will also be featured with a dump bed and other accessories over the next few years. This truck is quite common and easy to find, very robust, and usually worth around $10. The Silver Surfer, based on the casting called Inside Story. This casting has been released in numerous paint variations and base variations over the last few years, right back into the 1970s. This one is actually a harder one to find with the chrome paint job and Silver Surfer on the side, as well as trademarks. It is not a scene machine, it just has the regular interior and windows, the red headlights pointing through the blue base. No markings other than Hong Kong and Hot Wheels on the bottom. Worth around $15 to $25 in mint condition. This car formed a collection of the Heroes vehicles. Also a Heroes vehicle was the Vet Van, known as Iron Man. This one has a tan interior, the high raker rear axle that jacks up and down. Worth around $15 in mint condition. I have another one to show you that's still on card. And here it is with the original packaging. Quite hard to find like this, but especially hard to find with the red interior. This one cost me $45, and it is a tough vehicle to find. There's the other vehicles on the back, including the Silver Surfer. So not all Heroes cars were high rakers. In fact, only a few of them were. Captain America is in there as well. A lot of these vehicles were carryovers from the 1979 and 1980 years going forwards. Continuing with the Heroes lineup of vehicles, we've got Captain America, based on the casting Hot Bird, a Pontiac Firebird. This one now features the brand new for 1981 Gold Hot One wheels, which are much faster and smoother than the original Blackwall wheels. A different type of axle and suspension included, whereas the other cars did not have that at all. They're noticeably different sounding than the Blackwall wheel vehicles, and were a huge hit that went on well into the late 1980s and early 90s. This one is a very rare variation with the Gold Hot One wheels, as it was much more commonly found the year prior, 1980, with the Blackwall wheels. Even these cars are quite desirable now by collectors and worth anywhere between $40 and $50 a piece. Note the orange interior and red interior variation. As far as I know, that variation did not exist for the 1981 year. They only had red interiors at this point. But the Gold Hot One wheels make this car worth substantially more. I paid $95 for this car, and I've seen it sell for well over $100 at times. While we're looking at Gold Hot One wheel vehicles, the Corvette Stingray makes a release featuring the new Gold Hot One wheels and axles. And in 1980, it was the Blackwall version. Absolutely no change otherwise to the tampo, paint, or any of the parts other than the Gold Hot One wheels. This version is still quite common, as is the other one, and worth around $15. P911. The Porsche 911 also receives Gold Hot One wheels for 1981. In 1980 it featured the Blackwall wheels, otherwise no change at all. Both these cars are fairly easy to find, not so much in terrific condition though. And with Gold Hot One wheels, slightly harder to find than the first 1980 version in this paint job. This casting goes right back to 1975 and has seen numerous paint variations and tampo variations over these years. The Gold Hot One version is worth around $15 to $20, whereas this other one is probably worth a little bit less, maybe around $10 in mint condition. Scene Machines. They make a return for 1981, a popular series that first debuted in 1980. For 1981, though, we're limited to 3 models, whereas previously there was a whole bunch of models. These vehicles feature plastic window or viewer through the back of the vehicle, so when you hold them up to the light you can actually see an image inside of them. It's hard to capture on camera. But the first one we're looking at is the Circus Cats, based on a Baja Breaker. Big old van with an opening plastic hood, all metal construction. This one's worth about $100 to $150 if found mint loose. And the Racing Team, worth around $80. Quite a collectible series. This one has a plastic base. Space Van, also a chrome plastic base and a plastic top piece here. Very interesting futuristic vehicle. Each of these vehicles was released in the year prior under a different name and completely different paint job and tampo work. Here we have the Motocross Team van, but essentially the same idea. Behind the Racing Team van is the SWAT van from 1980. And the Space Van. This is a pretty rare casting to be seen by Hot Wheels. I think this was the only time we saw it with this actual plastic piece, as it got a different rooftop piece in later years, but a very limited number of models to collect for this particular casting, making it worth anywhere between $30 and $50 for the red model. Very difficult to see, but man, it's taking me a while with the camera. You can kind of see what's going on in there. A bunch of tigers jumping at you. This van has a very small portal window, so it's difficult to focus on, but you can kind of see it. See if we can capture it here. Almost as quickly as I have it, I've lost it. But anyways, there it is. Let's see if we can't find a little bit more clarity in this vehicle, which features a much larger sight picture. In this vehicle, we're seeing an engine being dropped in by a couple of mechanics into a hot rod. There's quite a bit of distortion with the camera though. There's the mechanic, there's the other mechanic, the engine on a pulley being dropped into what appears to be a street rodder. Sorry I can't do any better with this camera, but it's a difficult thing to try and capture. And the Space Van, this one's probably going to be difficult. Well, looks like we're off to a good start. What have we got in there? There are 3 spacemen in suits with helmets. Appear to be in pain by the look on this guy's face. And they're putting out a fire. There's fire around every window, and each of them is holding on to a fire extinguisher. Very interesting scene. Quite clear when I look at them, just can't capture it with the camera, as I said before. I tried. Here's a rare variation of the Ford Bronco 4x4 featuring Jeffrey the Giraffe on the side. This is a Toys R Us promotional at the time and quite hard to find. It can be found in packaging for a lot more, but this one is worth around $100 to $150 as well in mint loose condition. I think I paid around $125 for mine years ago. But it's a hard vehicle to find. The black plastic roof. I don't know of any other variations with this one. Otherwise the casting is the same as the Bronco 4x4 released in the main line for this year. Finishing off my video is my only Scorcher from 1981. There was, I believe, 4 different Scorchers, maybe 6 released this year. These were wind back cars and featured a rubber tire on the back. I'm not going to shoot it off the camera here, but opaque windows. This car was released as a mainline vehicle, which we'll see in 1982. But interestingly, the precursor to that is this 1981 928 Turbo, as it was called. It's quite a rare piece, cost me around $30, and the other 5 cars are also equally as rare. Well, I hope you enjoyed this segment of Hot Wheels Historian 1981, and lots more years to come, of course, still. That was all the cars I had from 1981 on the vintage display wall. You can see they occupy 1.5 Plano cases. Next up, we've got a big year for 1982. Lots of variations of the cars we looked at, as well as lots more new castings released by Mattel. And this one's going to be a table filler. There's just so many cars. Probably 6 Plano cases of cars for 1982. So that's going to be a big video. You'll need to grab a coffee for that one and sit down for a little while, because there's just no way I can get through it very quickly. Anyways, thanks for watching. As always, happy hunting.